joining me for another Cricut tutorial. I'm so excited about today's project. This is what we're making. This turned out way better than I thought it would, and I'm really excited. We're going to hang this in Evie's room. It's got a twine hanger on it. But I'm really excited how this turned out. I was inspired by Creativation when we went. We saw a couple different booths with a lot of felt flowers and put onto boards, and so I used that inspiration and created my own idea with this board. So, you guys ready to make one? Let's get started. Here we are in Design Space. We're going to grab some flowers. I cut some of mine by hand. I'll show you that technique right after this. And I did some of them with the Cricut Maker. And this is how I found my flowers. I went to Images, and up in the search bar I typed 3D flower, and you can see all of these flowers show up that are all 3D flowers. Now what I did was focus on the ones like this that have the spiral. These are rolled flowers, and I just picked a few different ones and used those to make my flowers. I will tell you I kept mine between probably 3.5 and 5.5 inches, except for there's a couple I did that were real small. So I didn't use any specific numbers. I just kind of pulled them out and just tried to keep them under 6 inches and did various sizes. So for instance, this is about what I would have cut, 5.6 by 5.2. Again, nothing special about those measurements. Just try to do some varying sizes so that you have big and little flowers and mediums. And I'll show you how I cut those on the Maker. Okay, I started with a piece of felt. This is just 49-cent felt from Joann's, and some Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. This is by ThermoWeb. This is my preferred Heat and Bond. I use this a lot. And if you've not seen any of my previous videos, Heat and Bond has a rough side and a paper side. You're going to put the rough side down on to your felt, and then you're going to use your iron, or I like to use the Easy Press, as you can see here, and just hit it with some heat for a few seconds. It doesn't take very long. And if you're using an iron, you're just going to put it on the cotton setting, no steam. And then you're going to let it cool a little bit, just a few seconds. And then you're going to peel the paper backing off of the felt. Once you peel that paper backing, you can see it leaves a shiny adhesive. Now this isn't sticky. It's not really adhesive until it gets warm again. So it's just really providing a little bit of a fabric stiffener. I prefer to use this whenever I cut felt on the Maker or the Explorer. You can actually cut felt without bonding on the Maker, but I just think this gives you a cleaner, nicer, crisper cut. Now you want to load this Heat and Bond side down on your strong grip mat. You can use a green mat if you've got a new mat that's still got a lot of stick to it, but you want to make sure this felt doesn't move around when you're cutting it with your Explorer or your Maker. I will recommend to check before you eject the mat to make sure that your flower has cut all the way through. If it hasn't, just hit the C on your Cricut and recut it. I cut mine twice just to be safe, and that seemed to work really well. Felt can be a little bit tricky because there's so many different variances on the thickness and the makeup of felt itself. So you might have to play with your settings just a little bit. But like I said, I checked it before I ejected the mat, and then I just hit the C again if it didn't appear to be cut all the way through. Now when removing the flower from the mat, I suggest using your spatula to get it started. This is a really long curly length of felt, and you want to get it started so that it starts to release from the mat so that you don't distort it as you're pulling it. Once you get it going, it's pretty easy. You can just pull on it at short little links and it'll come right off the mat. And now we're ready to assemble the flower. You're going to put the flower down and grab the outermost edge, which is this edge right here. And you want to turn it over so that the felt side is up, the Heat and Bond side is down. And then you're going to grab that open end and apply glue to the felt side, not the Heat and Bond side. You're going to apply the glue to the felt side and start rolling it towards the felt side, not the Heat and Bond side. The Heat and Bond side should be showing up on the outer of the outer part of the roll. So you're rolling towards the felt side. And you're going to start rolling it, and you want to keep it kind of tight at the beginning. After that, you can do whatever you like. It's a personal preference whether you like it real tight or you like it a little bit looser. But it's easier at the beginning to put the glue on the tail and then roll it in on itself. And then once you've got a little bit of the center of the flower going, then I start applying the glue to the flower itself and then just rolling the tail onto it. It's just, that's how it works for me. Do what works for you, but I find that method the easiest. So just continue adding glue and rolling up the flower until you have the entire flower rolled up. And it doesn't take real long. Just keep rolling and adding the glue. And again, if you roll it tighter for some, looser for others, your flower is going to look a little bit different. And depending on the various spiral cuts that you chose, each flower will also look different. Now when you get to the end, you're just going to roll that bottom piece right over to the bottom and seal it. And that's what I'm doing here. And you can see your finished flower. Now continue cutting different types of flowers in different colors of felt, and then you can hand cut some leaves, which is what I did here. And you can see I was not being very precise. I just hand cut a leaf shape, and I did this out of a different color, a couple different colors of green felt. And then on some of them, I just cut little slits on the ends just to give them a little bit more character. You can do that or not. Or you can have your Cricut maker cut your leaves as well. And here's another method that I use to make a couple of my flowers by hand. You just put a bead of glue along a rectangle of felt so that you have a tube, sort of like this. And then you just cut slits into the tube on the folded side. Don't cut all the way through. And I like the fact that they aren't perfect. So I have some of them that are thinner, some of them that are about 1/4 inch apart. Just random cuts. And once you get to the end, ooh, I almost cut through right there. But once you get all the way to the end, just put some glue along the end that you did not cut. And again, you're just going to start rolling the flower up. And this makes a really cute, different looking flower. And there are lots and lots of felt flower tutorials on YouTube if you want to make some various sizes and different kinds. But these are the two methods that I mostly used. I did use a couple others, but these are the ones I'm going to show you today. So the next thing I did was cut a stag head out of vinyl in Design Space. You could use contact paper, you could use construction paper, whatever you want to use for a stencil. I have tons of vinyl. I wasn't too worried about it, so I used vinyl. You can see the flowers that I've cut out and I've sort of arranged them. I encourage you to do this before you start gluing things down. This is the board that I got at Joann's. It was 14 by 14. It was around $35. It's by Jilly Bean Soup. And here is my stencil that I cut out of vinyl. Now I'm going to remove the flowers. Again, my board was 14 by 14, so I made my stencil 11.5 by 11.5, which is the biggest that I could cut on a 12 by 12 mat. And that happens to be just about the right size for this frame. Now the frame was $35, but I bought the frame and some felt at Joann's with coupons, and I ended up paying like $16 for all of it. So you want to weed your vinyl just like this. I grabbed my board and I grabbed a measuring tape and found my center points. So it's 14 inches across, so I marked a small pencil mark towards the top at 7 inches, and then again at the bottom at 7 inches. And that's just to help me line my transfer up in the center of the board. So next I peeled back the backing from the vinyl just a little bit and just folded it down. And then I placed the center of the antlers about at the center of my pencil mark and just lightly stuck down the top of that. Now it's not sticking real well, but I'm not concerned about that. I'm going to add some painter's tape and just secure that down, and I need to do that anyway so that when I paint this that it does not lift. So once I have the top stuck down, it's real easy to pull that backing off and keep everything smooth and in alignment. Now you just want to stick this down. I'm not really concerned about getting any wrinkles in the outer parts. I just want to make sure that the edges are not wrinkled where I will be spray painting. Now if you wanted to, you could use HTV or iron-on and iron on the deer head. That's totally doable, and you can iron on wood. You could also use vinyl. I wanted to keep it more authentic looking. I wanted to keep the lines in the wood, and so I decided to use some Krylon Glitter Blast Gold Glitter spray paint. So I'm using the stencil method. And again, you could use contact paper, you could use stencil paper, you could use cardstock. You don't have to waste your vinyl. I just have more vinyl than I'm ever going to use, so that's what I used. And then you want to tape off any open edges so that you don't get any paint overspray on there. So again, I'm not concerned about the wrinkles. This is just a stencil. All I want to make sure is that the edges where I'm going to be painting are secured down. So I'm going to step outside and go spray this with my Gold Glitter Blast spray paint. And I'll be right back. All right, it's all sprayed. Isn't that pretty? Now I go ahead and lift the stencil off when it's still wet. Some people like to wait till it's dry. That always makes me nervous. So I lift it while it's wet. So if you're going to do that, be very careful. Make sure you don't put your fingers in the painted area. So I went ahead and lifted all of the stencil off and removed the tape. And voila, isn't that a beauty? Now you want to let this dry before you move on to the next step. You can help it along with a heat gun, but be careful if you're using the glitter spray paint because it will bubble up on you if you keep the heat in one area too long. So let it dry however you want to do that, and then we're going to add our flowers. Okay, now we're ready for the fun part. So when I had the flowers arranged on the board, I used my phone and I took a picture of them. And voila, I have the picture pulled up on my iPad so that I can kind of remember how I had it. Handy little trick. I do that a lot when I'm making cards or paper projects. I'll take a picture before I glue things down, and then so I can remember how I had it. All right, so I'm just gonna roughly rearrange these the way that I had them before I glue this down. And I'm just using my iPad photo as a reminder of sort of how I had it laid out. And I don't know how many flowers to tell you to make. It really depends on how big you make them or how little you make them. I just made several and I just stuck them on there, and I've actually added 2 more flowers since I made the video. So just do what looks good to you. And once you have all your flowers arranged, go ahead and add some leaves in here. I decided I needed a couple more leaves, so I just freehand cut another one. And you can see I'm just adding some slices in the side of the leaf just to give it a little bit of texture. And once you have everything in place just the way you want it, then it's time to start gluing it down. So I just use my hot glue gun, and I am just lifting up one section at a time and adding the flowers back down. So that way I'm not trying to arrange it and glue before arrange it before the glue sets. I can just do a little bit at a time, and I already know where the placement is. So go ahead and glue the rest of your flowers down. So you can see I'm just one by one putting the flowers back into place along with the leaves. A few things have gotten a little bit rearranged, but that's okay. And I like that the flowers are different sizes, different heights. It gives it a lot more texture. And one final touch right here. And that's it. We're done. So I think this project turned out to be so much fun. I really, really like it. It's going to be super easy to match any decor. You can just change the colors of felt. You could change the color of the deer head. You could just do the antlers and not the head. all kinds of possibilities with this idea, and it's just a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Please visit me on my blog at LoriNunamaker.com. And until next time, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.